Good morning everyone, or technically afternoon now I guess. I'll just get going today. I'm not going to wait for people to come on. I'll just get going, and then as people come on then we can just kind of take questions, and if there's anything you want to say then just say it and we can kind of chat about it as we go through. So welcome along to my first Facebook Live on this page. And the reason I wanted to do this Facebook Live today is, as some of you have probably seen, if not all of you have seen, on Wednesday the BBC published a list of its top earners in the BBC. And what that report showed was that there was a huge gender pay gap. So, you know, it published earnings of people like Chris Evans and Claudia Winkleman, and you know, it was plain to see that there was a huge gap between what the top male income earners were earning and the top female income earners were earning. So it's created a lot of discussion. I was listening to LBC yesterday and they were talking a lot about it on there, and it's raised a lot of discussion around gender pay gap. You know, is it still relevant in today's day and age? And so I just wanted to come on and talk about it, and also kind of make it relevant to small businesses as well, because that is kind of who we work with, is small businesses. You know, we don't really work with huge corporations, but the principle is still there. So before we get going, I just really wanted to kind of put out there the differences and what gender pay gap actually is, because I think there's some confusion. Some people think that it is equal pay. It's not. It's quite a different thing altogether. So I'm just going to read something out for you. So basically the pay gap isn't the same as equal pay. Equal pay is that men and women doing the same job should be paid the same wage, and that has actually been law for 47 years. So for 47 years the law has been that a man and a woman who do exactly the same job should be paid the same wage, and that has been law for a really long time now. The gender pay gap, is quite different. What that is the difference between the gross hourly earnings of all working men and women within the same organisation. So it's looking at the sort of difference across the organisation of the hourly rate of men versus women, and then you get your gender pay gap. So across the UK, men earn 18.1% more than women. So 18.1% across the UK, men earn more than women based on an hour-to-hour basis. The BBC yesterday, when they did their reports, they reported that their gender pay gap difference was only 10%. So their kind of justification yesterday, well, ours is only 10%, so it's not actually that bad. But I think what we need to really look at here is, you know, why is this still an issue? And again, on LBC yesterday when I was listening to that, you know, they had a speaker on there, and she is an expert. She runs an equality organisation, and she felt that within her lifetime there would still not be equality in pay between men and women. So, you know, I was really sad about that. I actually felt a bit disheartened by that, because, you know, I'm a woman, clearly. And, you know, I've been working since I was 18. And it just makes me feel a little bit sad that, you know, we're out there working in the same environments as men. We do the same level of job as men, but yet our earnings are still drastically different, which is not right. I don't think it's right anyway. So I'm going to just go through some of the key kind of arguments that people put forward as to why it is that women do earn less and why there is this gender pay gap. Because regardless of what business size you run, you are going to have men and women in your business. So you need to be aware of some of the misconceptions and where this might be coming from. So the one I hear all the time is women work part-time, so they should earn less. So the difference here, again, is we're not looking at, you know, the amount they take home every month. Clearly, someone who works less hours should take home less money than someone who works full-time hours. That's not the argument. The problem is that it is the hourly rate that is less, and women typically earn a lower hourly rate comparably to men within a business. Another argument that I've seen, and this is taken from the an equality website, so you know this is kind of common themes that we hear quite a lot. So women choose lower paid jobs, and this is something that kind of really got my goat, because I don't think women do choose lower paid jobs at all. I think that a lot of women are typically carers. So typically, you know, if a female and her husband or partner or whatever, they have a baby, it's typically the woman that takes on that caring responsibility. Obviously not in all cases, but typically that is the case. So what tends to happen is that women can't necessarily always go back to that job that they had before they had their baby. So obviously people are required to keep a job open when someone goes on maternity leave. But the thing is that that is the exact job that they had before they went off on maternity leave. So you can imagine, you know, you're working for a company, you work full time and the rest, you've got a high pressure job, and then when your child comes along, or if you potentially have caring responsibilities for an older relative, your job, you're not going to be able to do it. In many cases, many women can't do that job full time, or quite frankly, they don't want to. You know, they've had a baby, they want to spend time with their child. So what they then want to do is look at part-time options. Now, obviously there is the flexible working law in that you have the right to request flexible working, but it doesn't mean a company has to accept your request at all. So typically then what happens is a woman applies to go back to their job part-time and their employer turns it down, and then they have to look for a part-time job somewhere else. So the problem is, and I've seen this happen with so many of my friends, is that they have a really good, well-paid job when they are, you know, before they have kids. You know, they're on 40 grand a year, 50 grand a year, good salaries with good corporate jobs, and then when they have a baby, they're not allowed to go back part-time. So then they have to look around for a job, because most families nowadays can't afford to just have one income earner. So then they go and get a lower paid admin job, for example, or they go and work in a shop because there are part-time hours there. So again, you know, it's for that reason that they earn less typically. It's not that they've chosen a lower paid job, it's because they've had no choice but to take a lower paid job. So again, you get that massive gap in men and women's earnings. So yeah, so those are the two sort of main arguments, and I think for small businesses it is a big deal. For people that aren't aware, so by April 2018, all companies with 250 employees or more are going to have to publish their figures showing the average pay for men and women and reporting on their gender pay gap as well. So that's for the big companies. So small companies, you're not going to have to do that. But I think this has all raised a really interesting debate, and it's something that I do feel very strongly about. Just as an example of how we run things here at South Coast, our consultants that work for us, they all work flexibly. My view is I don't actually care where my consultants are, when they're working, as long as the client's needs get met. So, you know, if they're working at home, if they're juggling things around the kids, that's absolutely fine. You know, I really don't mind. I'm absolutely happy with that. As long as the work gets done and as long as the client's needs are met, it's absolutely fine. I don't see that this is a problem at all. I actually think lots of small organisations are missing a trick here, because the guys that I have working with me are experienced, they're extremely good at what they do, and I know that they get a lot of enjoyment out of their job. You know, the job is very rewarding. It's, you know, they're not having to go and do something that they feel is, you know, not satisfying for them. You know, they're having to take a massive step back. They're getting paid good money and they're doing a job that they enjoy and able to flex it around the kids. One thing that I used to hear quite a lot when I worked for an HR organisation was that, you know, we were a client-facing company, and you know, we can't have people that work flexibly because we're client-facing. What if the client wants us? guys, we're in 2017. You know, there's these amazing things called mobile phones, laptops, and the internet. And I have never had an issue with people not being able to get a hold of us, not responding to people in the times that they feel that they need it. And I just don't see that it is an issue in our society nowadays. You know, it's just crazy to me, and I think that companies are missing a trick because their talented employees who go off and have a family or go off and, you know, take up caring responsibilities are then lost. So their knowledge, their expertise, everything is lost just because people can't start to think outside of the box in terms of how their business might work. Now clearly that's not going to work for all positions. You know, some positions you can't work from home, and that's totally, you know, that's the reality. You can't do all jobs from home. But is there not a reason to look at potentially some part-time hours, just different ways of working, so that you don't lose people, but also you're not getting those huge disparities in pay within your business? So I think this has opened up a really, really interesting debate. And you know, I think the BBC is just one example of the hundreds and hundreds of organisations out there that there is a huge disparity in pay. And yeah, I think it's opened up the discussion. I think it's made a lot of people turn and look at what they're doing in their own businesses. And you know, my recommendation would be that if you do have a business and you know, you've obviously got male and female employees, is to do a bit of an audit and look at what people are earning across the business. You know, how many male versus female people do you have in senior roles in your company? Is there more that you could do to attract talented women who perhaps have caring responsibilities into your organisation? You know, can you look at working flexibly? You know, there are lots of things that you can do, and if you do some sort of audit looking at the pay and there is a huge disparity there, I would really recommend that you look at that. Even though you don't have to, I would definitely suggest that you look at that, because it's just hugely demotivating if you know that someone that you work with is paid significantly more than you are. And you know, if there's no valid reason for that, then you know, it has to be something that you take a look at. So yeah, that's my kind of view on it. And I just think we need to keep talking about it. We need to keep putting it out there. And yeah, if you've got any questions on equal pay and, you know, the gender pay gap and how to report it, then happy to have a chat with you about that as well. So hope you found that interesting. And yeah, we're going to be doing more Facebook Lives because I quite like doing them. I'm a frustrated TV presenter, really. You know, that's what I wanted to be growing up. But anyway, hope you all found that interesting and useful, and we'll be back soon. Let us know if there's any other topics you want us to talk about, and we will come on and do those for you. So thanks for joining, everyone, and we will chat to you soon. Take care. Bye bye.